Hello, and welcome to the Say It Out Loud podcast. I am your host, Christine Daynard, and the goal of this podcast is to encourage you to live your best and most authentic life by digging deeper and finding connection through vulnerability. I believe we have been taught that vulnerability is a weakness, when in fact, it is our superpower. In this space, I will share personal stories and conversations with others so you can be empowered by their strength and inspired to take action in your own life. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's get started. Well, hello. Welcome back to the show. I'm so glad you're here. And listen, I am in the energy of the most awesome human, Brittany Schmidt. It's Schmidt, right?
It's Brittany, bitch.
Well, I was just going to say that. So the way I met Brittany was at an event that Andrea Mondo held about her book, one of her books, the Body Bliss books.
Yep.
And Brittany was part of the panel and literally introduced herself as Brittany bitch. And I was like, oh my God, we need to be friends. So funny enough, like not even kidding. I think it was within a few days, I messaged Brittany and said, oh my God, okay, we need to have you on the show. We need to talk. And before having this episode that you're listening to now, we literally have been sitting here talking for an hour.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the fact that we even reeled ourselves in enough to come in on the show is impressive.
Yeah, seriously, we could probably talk all day. 100%. So we're going to do our best to sort of like reel it in and make this like a bite-sized conversation for you instead of the likely 3 or 4 hours we could continue to talk for. But what I love about Brittany, first of all, is just the energy that she brings into the world. And hopefully we'll get to talking about parts of your life and like how you kind of came to where you are today and what you're doing. Because what you're doing in the world is very different today than it was, a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I would love for you to maybe introduce yourself to our listeners, just tell them a little bit about you and why you chose to say yes to come and chat with me today.
Okay, I will. So as you know, my name is Brittany Bitch, or you can find me under Brittany Schmidt because, advertising myself as Brittany Bitch probably just not the best move. So I am a plethora of things and I guess a bunch of different titles that really ultimately don't mean anything. But to give you a sense of what I do, I am a life coach. I have a number of different certifications from the Yes Apply method, which is really a new thing for me that I've been using. I tend to spend the majority of my time focusing on intuitive mentorship. So helping people figure out their own unique gifts and how to use them and bring them into the world. Definitely what I like to call like an authenticity ally, where I'm encouraging people to be their most authentic version of themselves, because I really think that it's a lost art to just show up as who you are. We do so much people pleasing. We've been so conditioned. It's actually really gross. Mm-hmm. So encouraging people to show up as the best version of themselves and the version that feels really good and isn't for anyone else. I do mediumship sessions regularly. So I speak to spirit. I talk to dead people all the time. And no, I'm not medicated. Although my husband for a long time thought I should be until his dad passed and came through within hours. So I definitely have a lot of messages that come through often. I can read pets. I can read people who are alive and have dementia. I did one last night. That was pretty cool. What else? I can do psychic things as well. So basically the way I run my sessions is I am open to whatever comes through. So a lot of mediums will have a script that they go through in their mind, and that was how I was taught, but I felt that it was really limiting in what I was able to connect to and reach, and I just allow spirit to come and give me whatever they want. And a lot of times it comes through in ways that I don't understand at all, including words that I don't even know. So I will be sitting in my office, talking to a client over Zoom or in person, and I'll be like, hey, Alexa, what does blah, blah, blah mean? And then Alexa will tell me, and it'll make perfect sense for the context of the conversation every time. So that's been pretty wild. I've created affirmation decks. So decks where you've got affirmations on the front, journal prompts on the back. The reason I did that is because I started journaling at the beginning of my journey in 2020 and had no fucking clue how to do it. I used to journal as a child and do poems, but didn't know how to journal appropriately, which is a funny word because like realistically you can't fuck up journaling. But I thought that it would be really cool to teach people how to love themselves and build confidence through these journaling prompts. So they're kind of like manifestation and like self-confidence building to remind you what a badass you are, because a lot of us seem to have forgotten somewhere along the lines.
Oh my God. Sorry. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
I do, but I could go on forever.
Incredible self-introduction. And I love this so much because, Brittany, we are doing similar things in the world, just that I don't have that mediumship sort of guidance the same way maybe you do, maybe a little bit different. I definitely feel guided,
Yep.
but, in this love for helping people see themselves
Yes.
and, rid themselves of the shame and guilt and just to show up as we are, because we're here with special gifts and we all have something different to offer.
Yep.
And we're here to support not only each other, but also, we're not just here to do, we're here to be, right? We are human beings. Yes.
Yes.
So I was so very drawn to your energy, first of all, when I met you on that panel at Andrea's event. And of course, then immediately followed you on social media. And then that's when I was like, okay, Brittany, you need to come and chat with me because I feel like we have so much to talk about. And of course, I'm curious because we don't know each other very well.
Yep.
I'm curious how, and prior to this interview, we were talking about how, things really shifted for you in the pandemic. But I think my first question is, when did you know you had the gifts that you have? And when did you find that out, or how did you find that out? How did you figure that out?
Surprisingly, very young. So I was 5 when I had my first spiritual encounter. My grandfather passed away, and after the funeral, we all went up to my grandma's apartment in the elevator, and he was in the elevator with us. And I assumed that everyone else could see him in the elevator because I could see him very clearly. And we all got out, and he stayed in the elevator, and I waved to him and I said, "Goodbye, Papa." And my entire family freaked out. My grandma was upset. She was bawling. My dad told me that it was, in poor taste for me to say that. And I did not feel safe for a long time to share my gifts. Fast forward to 18 years old. My dad had a heart attack. He had a quintuple bypass when he was 48. And I was at home by myself, and he was in the hospital getting looked at. I was doing my exams. I was 18 years old, just about to graduate high school. And so I had to stay home to, feed our animals and oversee the house and study, which really, I couldn't study very well because I couldn't think of anything other than the possibility that my dad was going to pass away. And we had a loft. So what a loft looks like is basically like a finished attic space with this turnkey sort of, I don't know how to describe it, almost like a turret staircase. That's the best way I can describe it, where it kind of comes down in curves. And at the bottom of the staircase, we had our dining room set, and it was storming. And I just remember it was really, really hazy, storming. I thought I was imagining things at first, but the lights were on, and it was very, very clear. And my grandfather was standing beside this old set, basically there to probably comfort me, but he scared the shit out of me. So I just went in my room and hid there for quite a while, called my mom. I was like, "There's someone in the house." And, in hindsight, that was him again, just checking in. He was the only person that I knew that was on the other side that I had met in my life. So at 18 was, I would say, the second encounter. And then in 2013, my mom passed away. So we had our buck and doe, which for anybody that isn't Canadian, a buck and doe is basically a really glorified, drunken, almost fair-like experience that you have to celebrate your engagement. And you raise money for the couple before they go and do their nuptials. And so she was not feeling well about 11:30 at night. Had diarrhea and was vomiting. So for anybody out there, if you ever have diarrhea and vomiting at the same time, this is your PSA to go and get yourself checked out. This is also a trigger warning because I am going to discuss a traumatic event. She was feeling sick, and I knew something was really wrong. My dad was sitting outside of the bathroom. Nobody would let him in. I went in, got her cleaned up after she had done her thing. And, we put her hair in a ponytail, gave her a little bucket. We were going to get her home. But we kept asking, "Do you want us to call an ambulance?" No, I just have food poisoning. I'm okay. I just have food poisoning. My dad was also not feeling well, and they had eaten at a new restaurant that night. So they assumed that it was just something that they ate. And we were at the old New Hamburg Arena. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's got 2 levels. And so she was walking down the stairs arm in arm with my dad, and I kind of looked over the banister at her. And this is my own buck and doe, so keep in mind, I'm 3 sheets to the wind at this point. Obviously, it's toward the end of the night. I've been drinking all night. We're having a pretty good time. And I leaned over and I said to my mom, "I love you. Call me when you get home." And it was like somebody physically punched me right in the gut. And I knew that I would never speak to her again.
Whoa.
And I, was half in the bag. So I kind of convinced myself, "Oh, you're just being dramatic. She's fine. She knows her body. She's fine." And I walked away from the edge, and my dad came flying back up the stairs within probably 5 minutes. And he's running towards me and he's like, your mom had a stroke. You need to come outside. But his face was saying something completely different. Like a stroke is one thing, but his face looked like fatal. I don't know how else to describe it. You could tell something was very wrong. So I went outside and there was a fire truck, an ambulance. And I guess my dad called the ambulance and they were just down the road, which is strange because in a small town, normally you have ambulances who are not near wherever you are. They were on a call that didn't end up being anything. So they were there right away. And the person that was kind of bouncing our buck and doe, because we had to have a like off-duty police officer to kind of bounce the thing. Constable Glass was his name. I don't know why. I'll never forget it. Well, we do know why. And so he was outside doing CPR on my mom. They had put her into the ambulance by the time that I got outside. And so I'm like hanging off the back of the paddy wagon. They're not arresting her, although she probably felt like they were. I'm hanging off of the back of the ambulance and, you know, just in tears. So we get her to the hospital. They stabilize her. The next morning they tell us to go home. And I, again, had this feeling that something wasn't right. But at this point we were drinking. Then we hadn't slept. We were laying, you know, in the waiting room until 7:30 in the morning. So we went home to have a nap. And I woke up at 10:30 and I picked up the phone to call my dad and he was already on the phone, which on a cell phone is really unusual. So I said, she's gone, isn't she? And he said, yeah. So we all got in the car. We met at the hospital. And the story is so interesting. And this is why I'm sharing as much detail as I am. We go into ICU and this beautiful, kind woman opens the door and I just collapse in her arms. And she was so like comfy and just kind. And she gave me the biggest loving hug that I've ever had. And then, of course, with that comes all the grief and everything else. But the story with her comes full circle. I'm also a real estate agent, and I went to someone's house to list their father-in-law's place. And it was somebody that I went to high school with, parents that were the executors. And this woman is there when I opened the door. And we couldn't figure out how we knew each other. And as we were chatting about, you know, her deceased loved one and my deceased loved one, I'm like, are you the nurse from the ICU that literally caught me? She remembered my mom's bed. She remembered my mom's room. She remembered exactly what happened. So it's just an example of how the universe pulls everything together for you. I ended up doing 3 deals with their family. It was just like a true full circle moment because my mom was also a real estate agent. So it was really cool to just experience that with her. But after she passed, I, you know, kind of continued my life the same way that I had. I was still kind of irresponsible, drinking all the time and being a kid. But she passed in May, which yesterday was actually the 11th year anniversary of her passing. And we got married in September. And I got pregnant within a month. So we went on our honeymoon. And when I came back, I had 2 periods in a month, which was really weird. And then got pregnant on the second one. So we literally went through like a passing, a marriage, and then got pregnant immediately. And then on my daughter's first birthday, we got pregnant again. So it was a real whirlwind of like lots of things happening. And I knew as soon as I got pregnant with my first daughter that she would have dark hair and green eyes, just like my mom. And she did when she was born. They're brown now. They've changed. But it's just such a really cool experience. Not the passing part, but everything else. So fast forward to 2020, and we obviously are in the middle of a pandemic. And I had started taking this cool course called Manifestation Babe, where it teaches you how to manifest whatever it is that you want. And I started to regulate my nervous system using yoga. People had been suggesting yoga to me for years. I had this lower left back pain for years and years and years. And yoga was something that people were always suggesting to me. So finally I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do some yoga. So Yoga with Adrienne on YouTube. She's free.
She's so wonderful. I also did a lot of that during the pandemic. So yes, she's amazing.
And her channel has gone like next level since it started. If you're looking for something that's free and really enjoyable and you feel like you've got a friend in your living room, she's just fantastic. So I did that for a long while. And then I took this Manifestation Babe course and I was like, oh, is this what spirituality is? Like, this is exciting. Literally manifested everything that I ever put out into the universe. And I was like, okay, I'm clearly like a unicorn. I'm a narcissistic unicorn. But I was convinced that basically I was magic, which is something I was convinced as a kid too. I used to think that I could change the weather. And of course, people told me I was crazy. But in hindsight, I probably could. I'm just kidding. So I did this manifestation, babe, got my toes wet. I then moved into, just pulling cards for myself, divination tools, pendulum, all that jazz. Ended up with like a fuck ton of crystals. Like every crystal that you could possibly imagine. If you ever come to my house and you want a crystal, just take it off the shelf and leave. My husband thanks you because those crystals have almost caused us a divorce. I don't know how many times. There are just so many. Got obsessed with crystals, put them in my office. We redid my office in the basement and it's just gorgeous. It has the best energy. You'll have to come. And then I came across mediumship, and I had been going to mediums for years after my mom passed away. It was the only way that I could really feel connected to her because she was my best friend. So it was really difficult for me when she passed, and I took a lot of time to grieve her, and I'm still grieving her to this day. Like, I don't think I'll ever be done. I don't think anyone is ever truly done. So I had a really hard time for quite some time after she passed away. So mediums was a way for me to feel connected to her. And I thought, okay, most of the things that they're saying are things that I've already felt or heard or experienced. So maybe mediumship is for me. So I took this mediumship course and I had my first practice run, and I got everything accurate for this girl who I'd never met before, ever. And she's like, how long have you been doing this? And I looked at I have a birthmark on my wrist, which kind of looks like a clock. And I said, about 5 minutes. And she's like, no, you haven't. Like, you've been doing this for years. And I'm like, no, like 5 minutes. And she goes, well, that was fucking crazy. So I thought, okay, that's a fluke, right? There's no possible way. And I didn't use my script, which I was such a rebel in the course because I didn't bother to use the script. And I thought, okay, well, there's got to be something to this. So we had practice sessions often with the groups, and I would go to the practice sessions, and I thought, well, fuck it, I'm just going to start trying it on people. And what I noticed was sometimes I would get in my way, and I'd get some imposter syndrome about what I was saying because people wouldn't resonate with everything that I was saying. And I thought, okay, that's strange. Like, with mediumship, normally it's a message directly from spirit. It should resonate. Well, then I'd get messages from them like 2 and 3 weeks later, and they'd be like, remember that thing that you said about this? Well, that just happened. And I thought, okay, that's weird. Does that mean that I'm a psychic medium? And then I started to play with it, and I would just say whatever came up. Didn't matter. It was like the gloves were off. There was no filter. I'm just going to fucking tell you whatever crazy shit comes in my head, and it's going to make sense for you. If it doesn't today, it'll make sense, in a short period of time. So I went to my hairdresser one day, and I'm like, you have a lady that lives in your house. And she's like, what the fuck? How did you know that? And I'm like, well, she's upstairs and she wanders around, and I think her name is Mary. And she just, she's not trying to bother anybody. She really likes what you've done with the house. She just wants to be here. And she's like, well, that's really, really, really strange of you to say, because I've always felt like there's somebody here. I hear noises, yada, yada. And I said, by the way, do you have plans to go to the Toronto Maple Leafs or Toronto Blue Jays game? No. Why would you think that? I'm like, I see you standing in front of the CN Tower. You've got Blue Jays hats on, and it's you and your family, and it's a very clear picture, and one of you has a red hat. And she goes, Britt, like, are you all right? I said, I don't know, am I? 3 days later, she messages me, and she's like, my husband took me to a Blue Jays game for my 40th birthday. Here's the picture. And it was exactly what I had seen.
Whoa.
It gave me full body chills because I was really nervous and scared to share the information that was coming through because, people don't always resonate with this type of work, especially if there's religion in the background, which we could talk about for hours. So she was freaked out. So I thought, okay, that wasn't mediumship at all. That was like pure psychic stuff. So, and my mom would always talk about ESP, which is extrasensory perception. I think I said that properly. And she would always talk about it. And I'm like, in hindsight, I'm pretty sure she had it because she would always know what was about to happen. Like, she would call me when I was doing something stupid and she'd be like, are you okay? Well, no, I'm doing something fucking stupid. And now I feel like I've been caught. So like, I'd be about to sleep with somebody who's like not a good choice, and she'd be calling, are you sure you're okay? It's like, I fell off my bike once. She called me. I was laying in the dirt, and she's like, are you okay? I'm like, not currently, no. No, I'm not. So I thought, okay, well, if she clearly had it, there's a good chance that I've probably got it too. So I started to practice more regularly with people. I started off just doing it for free, or, every once in a while I'd see somebody on Instagram and I'd get a message for them. And I very quickly realized that I didn't have any boundaries with spirit, because 3:30 in the morning, the veil is very thin between like 2 to 4. I'd feel people standing at the side of my bed. It scared the fucking shit out of me. And, I thought it was my kids at first. And then no, it would be like somebody's energy just standing at the side of my bed. So then I was like, okay, I need to learn how to do this better. So, that's when I really got to practicing a lot of the things that I had learned in the mediumship course and kind of didn't think too much of and wasn't really paying attention to. So I created a bit of my own sort of spiritual practice, so to speak, of how I kind of clear every morning. And then I also learned Reiki 1 and 2. So for anyone who's not familiar with what Reiki is an energetic movement. You're basically clearing, they call them chakras in your body. This is a way to move energy through your body that gets stuck through trauma, or it can be stuck through emotional feelings that you're not releasing. And it is a really beautiful practice to co-regulate with another human being, because typically it's done in person, or you can do it distantly, not a word. Distantly.
I was going to say, or from a distance.
From a distance.
Oh my God, I do that all the time. That's hysterical.
Yes. You have to break everything into song. Otherwise, Why are we even living?
100%.
So this Reiki level 1 I took, and I felt horrible for months. I thought, oh good, I'm never freaking doing that again. Then I took Reiki level 2, and it literally just boosted all of my intuition. And they put symbols into your hands so that you can channel universal energy, universal light. So this is really, we're all one, as all of us know. So this is like universal light from the universe to heal any ailments that people have. And what I found when I started Reiki was I could pinpoint on someone's body what they were feeling and why. And it freaked me out at first, because I had my very first Reiki client come, and we were talking about a friend of hers, and I felt stab wounds. And I'm like, I feel stab wounds in these 3 spots. And she goes, yeah, my friend was stabbed. And I'm like, what the fuck? Okay. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about what happened there? So she explained. And basically, most mediums have clairs. So the clairs are how you receive your information. And there's clairaudience, which is hearing, claircognizance, which is knowing, clairvoyance, which is seeing, clairsalience, which is smelling, clairgustance, which is, gustance is smelling, salience is tasting. No, I'm getting it wrong. I don't remember. Clairtangency, which is actually feeling. So anybody who's ever seen Wednesday, when she touches someone and she goes into that, like, she's getting all these messages and can see things. Clairtangency is what that is. And then there's something called clairempathy, which I just learned as I was building my course out, because I was, doing some market research and research in general to figure out these different clairs and how to describe them to people as they're going through my course. And clairempathy is something where you feel others' emotions. So when you ever go into a room and you feel really overwhelmed, we were talking about that before we came on.
Yep.
It's you feeling other people's emotions, which is where grounding and protecting becomes really important. So as I was going through all of this with Reiki, that's where I realized, okay, clairtangency and clairempathy were things that I also felt. So most mediums have 2 or 3 predominant clairs that they use most of the time. I have them all, which, as somebody who has undiagnosed ADHD, makes sense. Because it's like, of course you do.
Can I just diagnose you right now?
There's no need.
That's a yes. Anyway.
Dr. Christine Daynard has confirmed that Brittany Schmidt has ADHD. My dad has it. My younger daughter clearly has it. I have no doubt that I have had high functioning ADHD for a very long time. So all these different senses came on board when I did Reiki level 2. And it was very overwhelming because I didn't really know what to do with it all. So,
well, yeah. And can I pause this here just for a quick second to say, so if you're listening to this and this is all like gobbledygook because you've never heard about this before, I think that it's so powerful because in our society, this is not talked about.
Ever.
We don't talk about energy. We don't talk about how we help people. We don't talk about how we can see or feel or connect with different things because, first of all, it's witchcraft, right? That. If I could be using air quotes right now and you could see me, I'd be using, air quotes. But it's never, it's like this taboo topic. Right? We don't believe in it. We don't talk about it. And certainly, as we were mentioning earlier, if you grew up in the world of religion, this was like, you weren't even allowed to talk about it.
No.
Right?
No.
So interesting when you were first talking about how, when you first saw your grandfather in the elevator and the whole family basically had you feeling like you had done something wrong.
Yep.
You were intuitively, literally following what felt right. You saw, you said, you made that connection, you said goodbye essentially, and you were just following what felt natural to you. And then the people in your world who didn't understand basically told you something different. And what do? We believe our elders. We like, I must have done something wrong. And so this is what we do. And this is how we get conditioned into believing different things and not coming to talk about these topics.
Absolutely.
So I just felt it was really important to just kind of touch on that because, this is very taboo. And it's funny because, even in this podcast, I've had a few guests who have spoken to very similar, Kelly Shellhorn. She was one of my guests in the podcast, has a very similar story to you.
Oh.
And it's really just fascinating how we become so untethered from what comes so easily and naturally to us.
Yes.
And I just love listening to how you just started to lean into, just started following these little like whispers of like, oh, this is interesting. I'll take this. And I didn't feel good, but I feel like I have to take the next one because, right. So anyways, I just felt like kind of saying some of that out loud, not only for me, but also for anybody who's listening who, I think it's also really hard sometimes to hear things and hear people talk about things that we don't believe in.
Yes.
Or that we're haven't been privy in conversations to. And so initially our whole body is like, no, or fuck no, or our brain is like, we don't believe this. Like, what are these two talking about? But I really often challenge us and everybody who's listening to open your heart and your mind to different things.
Absolutely.
Because what we believe are things that someone once taught us.
We've been trained.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And so if we're sitting here in this conversation and listening to something new, it's like, and we open our heart and mind, we can create new beliefs for ourselves. So I wanted to inject that in there. So
I love that. I also love that you've used multiple times throughout this conversation and then before we came on the show, lean into, because my course is called Lean In, Spark Your Senses. So it just resonates so hard for me because people are so far away from themselves. Like even myself as a medium, I learned how to do mediumship to receive messages for others, but I couldn't tune into myself at the beginning to save my life. I was so busy being of service to other people, which has caused me burnout multiple times throughout the course of my life, that I forgot to put my own oxygen mask on. As they say, when you're in the airplane, put your own oxygen mask on first. So I've been reconditioning myself even throughout the course of this experience and journey to really lean into my own messages for my own self. So believe it or not, in my entire mediumship career, my own mother has only come through like 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I keep her at a distance because it's just too much for me emotionally.
Of course. Yeah.
But, when I went to Costa Rica, my higher self was hugging me during a breathwork session. And then my mom came through that apparition and also hugged me at the same time. So it was like this version of myself and my mom were hugging me, and I never felt more held in my entire life. And had I not started to lean into my own senses for myself, I'd have never been able to even access that. It was really cool.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I just love this so much. And I don't even have words right now. I just love all of this so much. So carry on. If you can remember where we were.
I think I was at I took Reiki level 2, things heightened, then started to lean into my own messages for myself. So, it started for me with angel numbers. Everybody says that they see angel numbers. I saw tons of angel numbers, and then I started asking for really specific signs. So anybody who's listening who has a loved one in spirit that they want to see specific things from, ask for them. Now, I'm also very logical, which has very often gotten me in trouble because I get caught up between my heart and my head. But there are 2 reasons why spirit will bring you the same things over and over. So one, scientifically speaking, you have what's called your RAS, so your reticular activating system. Once you bring something into your awareness, let's say, for example, a yellow car, you want to see a yellow car. You may not have noticed before a yellow car whatsoever. All of a sudden now you're going to see yellow cars everywhere. If you've asked for them from spirit, ask for them in a very specific way so that it can't be coincidence. And I'll give you an example. Yesterday was the anniversary, as I mentioned, of my mom's passing. We were driving to a fishing derby that my husband was at with one of my daughters, and I was driving my other daughter there for this presentation ceremony. On the way there, I asked my mom specifically for a black Nissan Versa in her make and model from that she owned before she passed away. This is a really old fucking car, right? Like she passed 11 years ago. That vehicle was already like 5 years old at that time. So this is a really old car. Within seconds, I look to my left and we're in the middle of buttfuck nowhere in the country. And there is a Nissan Versa in black sitting in a driveway. And I thought, okay, Mom, you can do better than that. I just want something that is specific to you. Just show me that you're showing up today. And I mean, to be honest with you, I actually forgot that yesterday was her anniversary, which I've never done. But a friend of mine messaged me and was like, oh, you know, I hope you're doing okay today. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then I was like, oh shit, that's how much healing I've done, that I'm actually not in a position where it's at the forefront of my mind at all times. So if you've recently lost someone, no, it's not going to completely become okay. No, it's never going to feel like 100%, but absolutely the way that you grieve changes, and the first cut is the deepest. It will not hurt this way forever. I just want to remind you of that. So I'm almost at this place. I've got 2 streets left. I turn right. My mom's name was Wendy. There is a store, little baby boutique, and it's Wendy's favorite things. And again, I'm in the middle of nowhere in Bellwood. There's no possible way that this could have ever, like, I could have created this in some way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to talk about manifest that shit? It's a mixture of manifestation and the universe answering your calls, spirit answering your calls. So naturally, I was pretty excited about this Wendy's favorite things. So ask spirit for what you want to see. Don't come to a medium and say to them, hey, what are signs from my spirit? Well, actually, you can. Do that too, because we will provide signs for you from them. They'll usually be like either general or specific. Depends on your person. Like I've had one person where it was red caps, and other people it's like white feathers, and they see white feathers everywhere in places that they shouldn't be. But if there's something about your loved one that was very specific to them that you saw a lot of, ask for it. So for example, for me with numbers, it started out with 420. And I know that's funny. Brittany, are you a big pothead? No. I've smoked weed 10 times in my life. It makes me paranoid as fuck. There's no pot up in here. I was going to say up in this bitch, but that, yeah. So 4:20 every single day. My mom got off work at 4, took her about 20 minutes to get home. She called me at 4:20 almost every day. This was our time. So I will wake up in the middle of the night at 4:20 and I know it's a message from her. Or if I'm driving somewhere and I'm thinking about something and I see 4:20 on my clock, I know that I'm on the right track. Typically, you want to ask for things to kind of make sure that you're on the right track. And then when you get those messages, pay attention to what you were thinking about in that moment. And that's usually how I can define whether or not what I'm doing is like the right move for me in that moment. Now, other than that, bringing us to today's date, in the last 4 years, I've continuously grown by taking courses. Like I'm fucking course obsessed. I don't know a single person who has ADHD who doesn't love learning on that level, which is funny because I got accepted to college, never went. I went to real estate college because I had to. And, you know, in high school, I got distracted by boys. Oopsie.
Yeah.
Oops. So my high school grades were like complete garbage. But as a kid, I had like 90s, like really good grades. I was teaching other children how to read because they had like enrichment, because I would distract everybody in the class. I'd get my work done and then I'd go touring around. I really pissed off my teachers, but then they loved me at the same time. So they put me to work. So then in, you know, real estate college, I got all these amazing courses because it was something that interested me. So again, another message here, which I'm sure Christine would resonate with, is do what makes you feel fucking good. Stop doing what people tell you quote unquote should do. That we need to just toss that word in the garbage. Between the two of us, we should light that shit on fire during a full moon. Like just light it up.
I'm in.
Let's do it. Do what lights you up, because ultimately that's going to be the thing that brings your success. And this is what people don't understand. Everything is energy. Okay. Imagine you're getting out of your car and you're drudging yourself to work every single day. Like I used to. I worked at Sun Life Financial for 14 years. Corporate is bullshit. I shouldn't say that. There's many of you that probably work in corporate and you love your jobs. And for that, amazing. For me, not so much. And I remember getting out of my vehicle one day and I watched everybody. And it was like watching zombies. Everyone had their head down, arms out. Just kidding. Nobody did that. Maybe one. They walk into the building. They look like they hate their lives. And then I sat in my car afterwards because I was teetering on the decision of whether or not I was going to go full-time real estate or I was going to continue my career path as a people leader at Sun Life. And people were skipping out of the building. And I thought, okay, I get it. Like, work is work, but like skipping out of the building. And then I thought, do I really want to do something where I hate my life going in and everyone around me's energy matches that? And then skip their way out, and that's the only time that they're happy? Like, you're in this building for 8 fucking hours a day. What a chore. And no, like, hard fucking no. So I went and got my real estate, went to college for real estate, and then did that for a number of years. And then I hustled so hard that I burnt myself out.
Shocker.
Surprise, surprise.
But what was the catalyst for the burnout in real estate? Can you talk to that? Because yes. I feel like I talk about burnout a fair bit in the podcast, and I talk to a lot of the people that I work with about burnout. Mm-hmm. And often it's not just because you're working too hard. Mm-mm. There's a reason behind why we're working too hard. So can you maybe share a little bit about that piece of your story?
That is a wonderful thing for you to ask. I like that a lot. Oh boy. So I am a recovering people pleaser. I very much, for a long time, held my worth in conjunction to my productivity. Sun Life was literally numbers oriented. I was a people leader. It was my job to make the numbers work. And I never did. I never did. My boss was always like, Brittany, your numbers are the worst. And I'm like, yeah, but watch, my people don't call in sick. My people actually want to be here. My people are inspired. The other people hate their boss. So after I left, we actually like reconvened, and he asked me to come back because I had this thing that he couldn't put his finger on. And I said, yeah, it's called kindness. It's called giving a shit about other people. So at Sun Life, it was very much orientated, not a word. I think we should make that up.
I like to make up words too. Yeah, I do all the time.
I like it. I was geared towards numbers. Then when I got into real estate, I had this manifestation. Was right around the time that I got into real estate. So I got licensed in 2016, left Sun Life in 2018. So I was like very much pushing for like large number of transactions to help as many people as I possibly could, because I felt so lit up by the work that I was doing. I was on my own. I could make my own hours. I could help people any way that I saw fit. And to be quite frank, I was very motivated by the money at that point. Mm-hmm. And of course, as you know, if you work your ass off and bleed yourself dry in real estate, you can do really well. So I did. I had made multiple 6 figures for quite a few years, thought I was a badass, had fake eyelashes, dyed my hair every 5 seconds, was very much obsessed with my weight and how I looked, and really helped a lot of people and had zero motherfucking boundaries. None. And I was doing it because I wanted to help people. But was I doing it because I wanted to help them because it would help them? Or was I doing it because I thought that it would get them to like me? Well, it's a mix of both. I wanted people to like me. And I've always had a real problem when people don't like me. It hurts my feelings. I'm so sensitive that I can feel when the energy shifts in a room. And my heart hurts with it. So I pushed myself so hard that I burnt right the fuck out. I was doing crazy amounts of sales. I ended up with an assistant for a period of time while the sales were really quite a lot. And then I ended up burning out. So the sales dwindled, which resulted in, not as much work, and got into all the mediumship stuff at that same point and shifted my gears. So I would say the overarching reason why I was doing it was to be liked. And that's really hard to say out loud. And I've actually never said it out loud before. So thank you for that.
Wow. Welcome to the Say It Out Loud podcast.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
No. How did I not know this?
That's hysterical. Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Literally.
What are the fucking chances? Oh my gosh. And I'm over here like, I don't even know what it's called. I just showed up because I like your energy.
That's the best. That's the best response ever.
Oh my God. This is like, my mind is blown. But then again, spirit, universe, meant to be.
But I think that it is so many of us.
Yes.
And, from childhood.
Oh yeah.
Everything is about do this and you get this. Do this and you get this. It's like a contract. It's like we must do service and then we're a good girl. We must do service and then we get people to like us. We get pat on the back.
Ugh.
For doing the things.
Oh, you lost weight. Congratulations. Let's celebrate you. I'm sorry. What was wrong with my fucking body before? It was still functioning.
Oh my God. Speaking of which, have you heard that song Fat?
No.
I forget who sings it, but oh my God, I'm going to put it in the show notes for this episode.
Yeah.
But I forget that artist's name because I'm not good with remembering details. And she basically sings about how she didn't know she was fat until she was taught she was.
Yes.
That before other people made comments about her body, she just lived in her body.
That's what my girls do.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful. My younger daughter has only had the like realization that she's on like a little bit bigger side because her sister keeps telling her that she is. And I'm like, Charlie, do you feel good in your body? And she's like, I love my body. And I said, so it doesn't matter. Do you know what I do? And please don't judge me, everyone that's listening, but fuck it. It's what I do. I say to my daughter and to our dog in a kind and loving way, you're my little fatty. And it's not a charged word for her because she doesn't understand it anything other than being said to her in a loving way. And I will rub her belly and I make it like a point to treat that word like a love word.
It's like a term of endearment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when she goes to school, if she doesn't grow out of this stage, and again, she's not very big, but she just, she's been made aware by
if
her.
she gets out in the world and someone calls her fat or a fatty, she's like, thank you.
Exactly.
I love me.
She does. And then when she gets off videos at the end of it, she goes, peeps out instead of peace out. She's the fucking cutest. She won't understand. And you know what? I'm not going to change that. I'm not going to break that for her. I call her my little fattiness. I love your little fattiness. And she doesn't care. No,
it's so beautiful because like we just literally have grown up doing everything that we do for other people.
Yeah. She's not doing that.
And like to not listen to what's inside of us, to not listen to what our heart tells us to do. Like I knew for my whole life that I did not want to work in a corporate setting. I did not want to have a desk job because the idea of it made me really bored.
Yeah.
And
if the idea makes you bored, imagine actually doing it.
Right. And then I remember I got pregnant with my son, quickly became a single mom when he was about 1.5 years old. And decided I'd go back to school, learning, and decided I was going to get into the corporate world, but just for a year so I could get some experience in communications and marketing and then go and help small businesses do that same thing.
So cool.
And then, I went into the corporate world and then stayed. Yeah.
They dug their claws into, oh, look, I've got a pension. Oh, look, you get vacation. Look at your fancy title.
And then I sat at a desk and I hated my fucking life.
Yeah.
And it drained every ounce of my genius out because I couldn't actually use my genius in that environment. It was also government, which was clearly not a good choice for me. I'm not really sure why that was. I think it was easy at the time. It was here to teach me something. Everything is, but just the thought of doing that. And so I had told myself, and I knew all my life that I never wanted to work at a desk. And then I found myself because I had listened to the people who told me that now that I was a parent and now that I was a single mom, I needed to get serious and settle down and do responsible things and take care of my business. And if you're listening to this and you have heard that same bullshit, which I guarantee you most of you have to some degree, right? Hands up over here, both of us, is that is absolute fucking bullshit.
It's horseshit. It just takes I just saw vampire teeth and it's like sucking the joy out of everything.
It took all the power out of everybody by telling them that they had to do anything. It comes back to that should word, like stop shitting all over me,
It sounds a lot like shitting all over me.
Totally. And that's exactly what it is. But it's like, we aren't here to perform for other people. And we certainly aren't here to just make money. Happiness is not in money. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can do a lot of things when you have more money and it does bring you moments of joy, but at the core of everything that we do, if we're not feeding our soul and listening to our body when it says, ooh, I really like to, and then, but I can't because no more.
Yeah.
Like it is time.
Fuck it.
It is time to say, fuck it.
Let's roll.
Like we learned in those 3 years where we were forced to be at home and not be with people and to be living in a place of fear. And like all of the things that happened in those few years have changed everything. And there's been a lot of, there was a lot of shitty stuff that happened during that time. And there's been a lot of silver lining come out of that time because I really feel like you and I, a lot of our shifts were catapulted as a result
Absolutely.
of being in that time of the world, right? I believe that it's like, maybe it was on purpose to some degree, right? To like kind of shake us up a little.
I'm here for it if it was. I know that sounds fucked up, but I don't care. Because think about all of the things that you've had to relook at. How much time do I spend online? How much time do I spend in my house? Do I actually like the way that my house looks? That's why the fucking market was insane during that time frame.
Oh my God. My sister works in renovations and it was bananas.
Insane. Yeah, my husband too. He's a carpenter and literally his phone was ringing off the hook. But we had to put somebody's business down because somebody had to be home with the kids. And like nobody's also talking about how that's changed the relational dynamics or the fallout of your nervous system post-pandemic. How many people actually maybe weren't that having that difficult of time during, but then the after part where you have to go back to all of these things that you didn't necessarily love and didn't realize that you didn't necessarily love. Now you've had time to regulate your nervous system by being at home, or you've been in such a state of fight or flight or fear that you haven't had any nervous system regulation. And then all of a sudden you're getting sick. You're getting sick because you're getting exposed to germs again, but also because your body is trying to fight off what's just taken place, and nobody is talking about the fallout of mental health.
And just the simple fact that no one is talking about those fucking 3 years.
Yeah.
And like what an impact. Like that was trauma.
100%. I feel it in my bones.
Right?
That's why I burnt out to the point that I did. That's why I'm doing the work that I do, is because of all of that shit. Mm-hmm. Because my kids would say to me, "Oh, you're not home to tuck me into bed again tonight. Oh, you're not home." Literally, I have been home to tuck them into bed and I make a point of it now. Like, you want to see a house and I'm tucking my kids into bed. Sorry, it's going to have to be in an hour or so or whatever, because I'm not doing that again. I'm not going to give myself away to everyone else in an attempt to get them to like me. Obviously, I still need to do my job and do it well, which I can. But I also need to know that those children matter and they need to know that they matter, because otherwise, what is it all for?
Well, and it's like, I think somehow we convince ourselves that we're doing all of this for our family, or we're doing all of this so we can fill in the blank. But if we're doing so much and spending so much of our energy and time doing the things that don't bring us joy or happiness or fulfillment, and it's to get something else, we're missing the mark.
We're missing the whole fucking point.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, no, it is about listening to everything in you. There's something else meant for you.
Yep.
And you know what, if we like, there is our whole world right now, and I don't want to go off, probably go off on a million tangents, but it's like everything is based around money. Like, look at the billionaires in the world and what they're creating, and we're buying into, literally.
Yeah, the consumerism, because we are conditioned over social media. You've got influencers who are pushing products. You've got commercials, you've got it over the airways. Everywhere you turn, you are being conditioned, whether you recognize it or not.
Conditioned with, this is what's wrong with you.
Yep.
So here's your problem.
Yep.
Here's what's not working for you because you can't fix your own problem. Buy our product and get fixed as a result.
And it's interesting you say that, because as I was creating this course, I had such an issue with everything that I was being told of how to promote it. It's like, and I haven't promoted it very much as a result, because I felt like I was being too pushy. But the course is actually going to bring you back to yourself. And that's the whole point of it. So it's like, on one hand, I feel like it's not fair for me not to promote it, because I don't want people to be in a position where they're constantly listening to the external influence. But in order to get them into it, I need them to listen to the external influence.
It's funny. I really struggle with this too. And I recently ended up hiring, I'm a part of this community for it's called Joy Fueled Marketing. There are a couple girls are from the States, but anyway, long and the short of it is that they're heart-centered entrepreneurs.
Love that.
And they're like, we're not spammy and gross and just saying things for the sake of saying things to get someone to buy something. We're not here to convince anyone. We're here to connect. Here's your story. Here's what it is that you're doing. And other people have a similar story that you can help. So how do we help you share your story so that they can hear your story and go, holy shit, that's me. And if I can work with you, I can connect, and I can then tell my story.
Yeah.
And it kind of creates this like ripple effect, right? Because that's what we really want. We want, like, we don't see, and like, I think, and we were talking a little bit earlier before we were chatting on the podcast, is that, you know, it's like looking for proof of things that are working for us, right? Because there's a lot of things out there that are working against us, or that's how we would certainly perceive them. But as we start to looking for proof of more of what is working for us, and, you know, a lot of it is that the world doesn't present a lot of these different out of the box ideas or concepts, because the majority of us are so conditioned to just look at what's right in front of us. What are the most of us doing? This is the norm. This is what I'm going to do. And imagine now if we start to flip that norm upside down and we start to see more people doing things differently.
100%.
It's like, oh, okay, there's proof that people have followed what everybody has done. And which, by the way, most people aren't talking about the fact that they're miserable following what everybody else is doing, but they won't talk about it. But now imagine we're over here on the other side where we're like, oh shit, look at that. I know that girl. I used to go to school with that girl and she's doing that thing. Well, shit, I didn't even think that was possible.
Right.
Imagine what starts to happen.
Yes.
As more of us start to lean into more of what's for us, what feels right for us, and how we can show others, show them proof that it doesn't have to be this one way.
And it really doesn't.
There's never been one. Right.
Think about, you've got a coloring book and you're told to color within the lines. Do you think that any artist out there in the world colors within the motherfucking lines?
No.
Do you think that Picasso was like, hey, I've got some lines here.
Right.
Maybe if I fill them in with some colors, this will be great. I'm pretty sure that's not
Well, look at the art on my wall. Look at the art on my wall. It's literally,
like,
I could do I don't,
right?
It's nothing. It's abstract. It's like, and I know you can't see it, viewers, but we're looking at this piece of art on my wall that's literally just colors and swooshes and lines and some sort of writing, but not really clear what it is. And then it's just creative. It's just like, oh, it was like an outlet for somebody to paint something.
100%. And you can almost feel it. Think about when you're listening to a song and you are singing that song and you can literally feel, like, for me, it's Queen. For whatever reason, I'm just obsessed. And, you know, I hear those songs and I feel it in my soul. Not only is that you tuning into your intuition, by the way, that you're able to pick up on those idiosyncrasies, but you are connecting, just like we're talking about this marketing that is connective marketing versus that spammy kind of like denial marketing, I like to call it, where it's like, you need this because you're broken in XYZ. It's like, fuck off. How about you just state what you've done and how it worked for you and let people connect to that story. And then from there, if they decide that they want to be part of it, attraction marketing. Yeah. Beautiful. And it's not really even marketing. It's more just sharing who you are.
Yeah.
And that's what I really like about you, by the way. You're really good at that.
Thank you.
So back to the songs. If you can connect to a song in that way, imagine if you were to listen to your own intuition, what could you create? What could you become if you tuned right back into yourself? And what people don't recognize is that if your nervous system is fucked, this is what the entire portion of my course, which is not going to make sense to people because I've never heard any other intuitive being talk about it outwardly in this way, because I'm incorporating the science piece of it. If your nervous system is fucked because you've had years of people pleasing where you're uncomfortable in your own body or you're feeling fearful because of someone's judgment, you are not going to be able to pull yourself out of your sympathetic nervous system long enough to get into this parasympathetic nervous system, which is where you've got your rest and digest, which is where all of your intuition is going to come in and tell you exactly what your next right step is to do whatever it is that you're after, to manifest whatever it is that you want, to be whoever you want to be, or just be. You know, rest and digest is literally just being. You do it while you're sleeping. You're not trying to impress anybody when you're sleeping. You're not concerned about whether or not Joe Schmo down the road thinks that you have a nice Mercedes Benz. You don't give a fuck about any of that when you're sleeping. You also don't care about that when you're taking a shit or having a pee. That's just you being. So how do you put your body into a state where you're able to just be in order to receive? And this is what I think is really important that we need to unlearn. We need to unlearn all the bullshit. Like I see it even in my kids. They're in grade 2 and 4 and I'm just like, fuck, even in those age groups, you know, I have to admit we're in a small school, so they're a little bit better about letting them just be who they are, but it's tough. And when they come home and they're having all these big feelings and I want to get my claws out and go to school and go to bat for them, I have to remember this is also part of their journey and let them just be. Here's an example. My children got kittens on the weekend. I had some ideas about what these kittens should be named. And I gave them the kittens and I gently guided them on names that maybe weren't going to make sense. Like if you're yelling Reese's Pieces because the cat's doing something you don't like, do you really want to say Reese's Pieces 12 times? Or would there be another name that you would prefer to say instead? Say instead. So, you know, gentle little reminders there. But ultimately, I was like, ultimately, it's your choice. These are just what mommy thinks. And so they named them. And my daughter named hers the female cat Sky, and the other cat's name is Angel, which reminds me of Angel from Buffy. Anybody who was born in the 80s and or 70s, you should probably know that. If you don't, we won't hold it against you. If you don't know that, you should probably go and check it out.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So good. Also, he was quite dreamy, but there is that. So they named their cats. And it was this small thing that I did that gave them autonomy that I could see so very clearly was needed, because I have a really hard time letting go of control with my children. I'm pretty good everywhere else in my life, but with my children, it is something that I have to consciously remind myself about, because my father was extremely overprotective of me, which has caused quite a lot of fear in my life and anxiousness, because he basically the fear of God striked. That's not the right word.
What is the right word for that?
Put the fear of God in me. Put. I don't know why I wanted to say striked. It sounds so violent. Put, not literally God, because I obviously didn't experience that growing up, but he put the fear of God in me in the sense of making me fearful of things I didn't have to be afraid of. Here's an example. I'm terrified of being driven in a car by other people. My dad was fearful of being driven in a car by other people. It took me going into my past through some past life regression and other things like ancestral trauma to realize that my grandmother was in a car with people when she was a kid, and there was an accident and she went out the top roof that was, you know, like canvas, and she was the only one that survived. So my dad has learned this from his mother to be fearful, and then he's passed that along to me. So you want to talk about some generational trauma.
Damn.
We don't even realize sometimes where these things are coming from. So getting curious. Why do I feel this way? What's coming up? How does it show up in my body? Why is it there? What's the purpose of it? What's it trying to show me? What's it trying to teach me? And the more I ask myself more questions, which honestly in my head probably sounds like a fucking interrogation, like full-blown detective mode up in here. There's definitely notes, and I don't remember half of them, but asking these kinds of questions. Why do you feel this way? Why is, for example, intuition. Why is it not safe for you to tune into your intuition? When were you told that that wasn't a good idea? For me, I was 5 years old, saying goodbye to my grandpa. Maybe at some point, somebody somewhere along the way has told you, people will think you're crazy. When I first started mediumship, my dad told me, don't tell people that you talk to dead people because they'll think you're crazy. And I said, I am crazy. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, I just took the power away from you. I am crazy. And he's like, I don't understand. I said, what if I'm okay with being crazy? What would that mean for you? Are you concerned because I'm your daughter, and how does that represent you in the world? And he just got really quiet. And I said, I'm my own person. I'm almost 40 fucking years old. If I want to talk to dead people, if I want to talk to a fly on the wall, I'm going to do it. And just because it makes you uncomfortable doesn't mean that it has to make me uncomfortable. This is my life. And ultimately, I'm going to live it for me, nobody else. And that's one thing that my mother's death has taught me. She did whatever the fuck she wanted. She was addicted to gambling and she liked it. So she did it. And you know what? That was probably really hard for my dad, I understand. But ultimately, it made her happy. So if that's what she needed to do to make her happy and make her life feel good to her, who am I to hold that against her? Especially knowing that it was going to be such a limited life in terms of like length. So if dyeing your hair crazy colors feels good, if having your tits out of your bra feels good, obviously within reason, you might want to cage the ladies every once in a while. If wearing short shorts makes you feel good and you know you've got some extra love on your body, fuck it. If leaving your corporate job makes you feel good because you don't want to be trapped in a box anymore, because you want to really put yourself out there and do what Christine and I have done, fucking go for it. Like, why are we forever living our lives for other people when at the end of the day,
Yeah. Well, and I think in addition to like, I mean, this kind of opens up like there is like a bit of a can of worms in the reasons why we do all the things, right? And we're really kind of simplifying things. But ultimately, you know, I think too, in the world, we have this idea that we have to go from one thing to the other. It has to be perfect.
Yep.
We have to have it all figured out. And we literally have to be like, goodbye to this, yes to this, done. And that's not how it works.
That's not at all how it works.
Right? It's like, okay, I'm in my corporate job that I hate. I dreamt about my previous business for a year and a half before I actually took the leap.
Literally, this course has been on my heart for a year and a half, and I'm just releasing it because the timing wasn't right.
Right.
Yes.
And so it sat on my heart for a year and a half. I had to wait until I was pushed to the point over the edge at work where I was like, I need to fucking get out of here.
Peeps out.
Right. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, why am I not doing this thing?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what started it, but also allowed me to like, you know, I was a Norwix consultant on the side for years. And like, I've done like all these different things. It's like, we don't have to move from one thing to the next. It doesn't have to be like black and white. It's like, you can dream for a while about it. Write down those dreams, you know, say them out loud, come in here and talk about them, whatever. Like, but get those dreams out, get curious about where that's going to take you. And then just start to take a step. Because, you know, you or I sitting here having this conversation, we didn't just go from there to here.
No.
There were lots of like little micro steps along the way. And I think that's where we get so tripped up, is that we're so trying to fall into perfection, trying to make sure that other people don't think that we're fill in the blank, we're a failure, we're not doing it right, whatever it is, right? We're afraid of what other people are going to think, and that's where the failure is. But the truth is that when we lean in, again, when we lean into what feels right for us and we just start taking steps,
Yep.
those steps, whether or not they have us hitting a brick wall or opening a door, it's taking us somewhere, it's moving us. So if we don't even take the move and allow like air quote failure to happen, the possibility of that to happen, to then guide you and redirect you to what is next for you, taking some kind of action, no matter how small it is going to move the needle. But staying and doing everything that you're continuing to do,
it's just self-sabotage,
is literally just going to keep you in some version of the same thing. It's like my 3 experiences in burnout, all 3 very different circumstances. Mm-hmm. And I just realized the other day, I said out loud to myself, holy shit, I thought that all 3 of those circumstances were the circumstance. I mean, certainly influenced it, but it was the pattern.
Yep.
I suffered from burnout because I consistently was trying to do all the things everybody else wanted me to do, kept getting pulled in directions that my heart wasn't leading me to, but I thought that I should do that because, well, that's what everybody else was doing and that's what other people are doing. And I hustled my ass off and hustled for something I didn't even fucking want.
Yes. And that is so hard. It's such a hard realization. It's so hard because then all of a sudden, what are you left with? That's how you defined yourself. So now you have this opportunity, which it may not feel like an opportunity in the moment for anybody that's going through this, to redefine who you are or not define yourself at all. Who fucking cares? This world is obsessed with labels.
Oh my God, it's so true.
So many labels. But like realistically, if you're not the thing that you thought that you were meant to be, that just gives you an opportunity to shift and pivot and change and do whatever you want. Like I think about babies, right? And when they start to learn to crawl, that baby is encouraged the entire time to continue to crawl, right? Because you got somebody in the background going, oh yeah, you can do this. You can do this. Why the fuck aren't we getting that the rest of our lives?
So few cheerleaders. Literally, I often call myself not only an advocate for authenticity, which I thought was interesting because you use very similar words to describe yourself, but also a cheerleader, a personal cheerleader. We don't have cheerleaders. No. We're all so worried about how we're going to compete with that other person or what they're doing better than us and how we can get better and do the same thing. No, you're not here to do the same thing. And the way that they did it isn't working for you because it's not meant for you to work that way.
Because you ain't them.
Right. Exactly.
You're not them.
Right? Oh my goodness. Listen, Brittany.
Yes.
We could seriously.
I'll just camp out here.
Take over the microphone lines. I don't even, that's not really a thing, but it is. Anyways, we're just going to roll with it. I clearly need to have you come back for like a follow-up from this conversation, but I feel like maybe this is a really great spot for us to put a pause on this conversation and allow people to absorb kind of where we've come so far. You know, I think ultimately a big part of the message that we're sharing here is that, you know, that change is possible for all of us.
Yep.
And shifting our mindset is for everyone. And the reason we're so stuck where we are is because we're so determined to stick with the beliefs that we have that we don't even know why we believe them half the time.
Isn't that scary?
And when we start to, as you were speaking to, get curious about why we believe the things that we believe, why we think we can't take that next step, why we think that that thing is not for us, when meanwhile that same dream keeps coming back to you.
I got a dream that someday I'm gonna fly away.
Oh, I love that. The dream song that comes up for me is from, what's that modern version of Rapunzel?
Oh, I don't remember.
With like, and there's this like big scene in the pub where he's like, I've got a dream. No, you don't.
I haven't heard that.
No, okay. What is the movie called? Someone's probably listening to this right now and they're like, it's called Blue. And I totally can't remember. We watched it so much when Jackson was little. I'm just trying to think. Anyways, it doesn't matter, but we both have songs. We both go into song.
Always. If you're not singing a song, what are you doing?
This has been so fun to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored. And also, like, if you ever have the opportunity to come into her little studio, I'm obsessed. It's such a vibe.
The office / studio / spare room. Like, you could come here, you can stay for a few nights.
I said I was staying. I'm just going to set up camp. I forgot my lunch pail, but it's fine.
It's all good. I got a kitchen in the former like kitchen studio around Sunshine Island where we could totally eat. Oh my gosh. So we're going to continue this conversation soon. But what I would love to ask for you is to leave our listeners with just something that's coming through you right now. What is a last thought or feeling or words that you want to share with our audience today?
Get yourself a really, really good case of the fuckets and do whatever you want. Stop believing what everyone else is telling you and start believing what you know to be true within yourself.
And follow you on social media.
Yes, that would be
because when we're surrounding ourselves with other people that are also in the fuck it bucket, then we are surrounded by more proof that there are more of us. Like, you're not alone in your silo.
Nope.
Right? Get in the fuck it bucket with us. Brittany, where can people find you? How can they learn more about you? Tell them all the things.
Thank you. You can find me on Instagram. So it's at sprinkle.that.sparkle, sprinkle.sparkle, which, by the way, she has a sparkle sign in her bathroom that I clearly took a photo of because what the fuck? Sprinkle.sparkle or Brittany Schmidt. If you Google me, I will come up. You can find me on social media. I have a website, sprinkle.sparkle.ca. I have a TikTok account that I don't go on. So, I mean, don't waste your time there. But Instagram is where I spend the majority of my time. You can book with me on my website if you want to have a reading. I would be so honored to hold space for you. And you can find any information additionally about me there. My email address is brittany@brittanyschmidt.ca. I spell it the right way. I'm so sorry to any other Brittany's that are listening. BrittanySchmidt. Brittany@brittanyschmidt.ca. I love you all, even the Brittany's who spell it wrong.
That was a great way to exit. Thank you again so much for coming and chatting with me in this space.
Thank you for having me.
And listeners, I hope that this conversation had you laughing along with us, learning something new, or maybe being reminded, that you're not crazy, or maybe you are. and that is okay because you're going to go and pick up your fuck it bucket and you're just going to roll with it. I love this fuck it bucket. I'm totally using this from now on. We love you. And I'm so grateful that you were here to listen to this conversation today. And I encourage you to hit that subscribe button, that follow button. Stay here for more. There's more episodes coming. And I hope that you go and check out Brittany as well, because she's amazing and you need more Brittany in your life and more Brittany bitch in your life. And we'll see you soon. Okay. Have a great day. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode. I'd like to invite you to hit the follow button on this podcast so you'll be notified when the next one drops. And if you liked this episode, please leave a review, as it will help others to find this message. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at It's Me, Christine D. Or if you'd like to connect about being a guest on the show, ask me about group or one-on-one joy and mindset coaching, learn more about the Joy Project community, or consider hiring me for your next speaking engagement, please visit itsmechristined.ca. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.